Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving straight into a super focused explainer on taking absolute control of Claude Code. Look, if you're a developer trying to squeeze every ounce of efficiency out of your workflow, you're exactly where you need to be. We're not just doing basic prompting today. No, we're going to systematically break down how to actually build and manage your AI's brain so it syncs up perfectly with your specific dev environment. Let's get under the hood and look at the core systems driving Claude's context. So, let me ask you something that's probably crossed your mind at 2 a.m. Why on earth does your AI copilot keep ignoring your project's architecture? I mean, we've all been there, right? You ask the AI to spin up a quick component, and instead of following that beautifully organized file structure you spent hours on, it just dumps a new folder somewhere totally random. Or worse, it hallucinates features you literally never asked for. It's like you're fighting the tool instead of using it. But hey, today we're fixing that. We're going to give Claude the exact map it needs to stop driving blind. First up, initializing Claude Code. All right, let's start with step 1. This is literally the birth of Claude's understanding of your specific project. Let's demystify exactly what happens when you hit that /init command. Spoiler alert, it's not magic. It's actually a highly systematic analysis. When you run it, Claude basically writes itself a little to-do list. First, it goes exploring through your entire repo. Then, it meticulously analyzes your package.json, getting a feel for the tools and dependencies you're rocking. After that, it hunts for any existing documentation files. And finally, it maps out your folder structure. It's actively reading, searching, and running this massive reconnaissance mission across your code base, so it knows exactly where everything lives. Okay, so what does it actually do with all that intel? Well, it takes everything, summarizes it, and dumps it right into a structured, human-readable file called claude.md, sitting dead center in the root of your project. You can think of this as a mini documentation file, just for your code. Honestly, this is the permanent steering wheel for your AI copilot. Anytime you have an active session, whether you're just asking questions or pushing changes, Claude automatically grabs this file to use as its context and ultimate guide. But hold on. Here's where a lot of developers actually trip up. See, if you've got an established code base, Claude scans it and creates this gorgeous, highly detailed guide. But what if you run that initialization on a brand new, empty project? Well, Claude obviously has way less to work with, right? Your claude.md file is going to be pretty sparse. In this situation, it is absolutely crucial that you go in and manually edit that file yourself. You've got to outline your high-level structures, your frameworks, your styling preferences. Basically, you have to hand it the blueprint before it can start building the house. Which brings us to the anatomy of claud.md. So, what does a fully fleshed out blueprint actually look like? Let's take a peek under the hood. An ideal template, one with enough context, is broken down into some really clear sections. You'll see development commands pulled straight from your package.json. You'll see an architecture overview. For example, it'll explicitly state, hey, this is a Next.js 15 app using React 19 and Tailwind v4. It maps the folder paths so it knows exactly where to drop reusable things like hooks. It even captures your data setup and testing tools. When you give Claude this level of comprehensive guidance, the code generation gets significantly better. It actually matches your real-world workflow. Next up, let's talk about the 3-stage workflow. Let's see how all of this plays into Claude's day-to-day operation. Think of this as the continuous cognitive loop Claude runs while you're coding. To really master this tool, you've got to understand how it thinks across 3 specific stages. Stage 1 is scanning. We just covered that, running the init command to generate your context file. Stage 2 is referencing. And honestly, this is the magic of the system. For every single prompt you enter after that, Claude automatically includes your claude.md file in the session context. You never have to remind it where things go. And finally, stage 3, memorizing. This is how Claude evolves. You can literally teach it new rules mid-session on the fly, and it updates its own brain. So let's look at that memorizing stage in action, because it's super cool. Say you're coding, and you notice you're doing the same tedious task over and over. You can literally just type a hash symbol right in your chat session, followed by a rule. Something like, when making new page components, always add a link to that page in the header. Because you used that little hash symbol, Claude instantly goes, I need to remember this. It permanently appends that rule straight into your claude.md file. So next time you ask it to spin up an about page, boom, it builds the page and automatically updates your nav layout, just like you told it to. Let's move on to mastering Claude Memorize. Now that we know Claude can memorize our rules, we kind of need to know where it's actually storing them, right? When you tell it to remember something, you actually have options. And knowing the difference here is absolutely vital. First up is project memory. This is your main Claude.md file at the root. This one should be tracked by Git and pushed to your repo so your whole team is on the exact same page with folder structures and naming conventions. Then you've got local project memory. This used to be for your untracked personal project preferences, but quick heads up from the official docs, they're actually deprecating this feature. Soon you'll just import untracked files into the main project memory instead. And finally, there's user memory. This one is stored globally on your machine. It's the perfect spot for your personal coding styles or global tools that you want Claude to use across literally every project you ever open. Oh, and here's a massive pro tip for your workflow. You really don't need to go digging through your system folders trying to find all these different memory files. Just type the /memory command right into your terminal. Claude will pop up a little prompt asking which file you want to look at, and with one tap of the Enter key, it opens that exact file directly in VS Code. You can start manually tweaking it right away. It's a real game changer for efficiency. Now let's tackle preventing scope creep. All right, so we're organized, Claude's memory is perfect. But what happens when Claude gets just a little too enthusiastic? A pretty well-known habit of Claude Code is that it loves to over-deliver. For example, if you ask it to build a new hook for storing a user's theme preference in local storage, it'll build it perfectly in your hooks folder, but then it might go rogue and try to inject that hook into all your components before you're even ready. To stop this kind of scope creep, you have to use preventative framing. Instead of just asking for the hook, you ask for it and explicitly add, "Don't use the hook anywhere yet." Setting these firm guardrails, whether right in your prompt or permanently in your Claude.md, forces Claude to stay laser-focused on exactly what you asked for and nothing more. And guys, this leads us to what is easily the most important takeaway of this whole explainer. You have to keep this file alive. Your Claude.md is not a set it and forget it kind of thing. As your project evolves, as you move folders around, install new libraries, or rip out old legacy packages, you absolutely must manually update that context file. If you neglect it, you're basically severing Claude's understanding of your reality. It's going to rely on outdated instructions and go off in a completely different, wrong direction the next time you ask for help. Keep that file breathing and your generations will stay razor sharp. So I'm going to leave you with a final thought to chew on today. Are you letting Claude drive, or are you the one charting the course? Honestly, the difference between a frustrating AI experience and having a genuinely empowering copilot all comes down to how well you manage its context. By using that init command the right way, tracking your Claude.md, and keeping those memory rules fresh, you stop hoping the AI just magically guesses right. Instead, you're explicitly setting it up to succeed. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and as always, happy coding.